When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject, 43 nights. User, 1B2G4X. Posted, April 4th, 1998.
My name is Leah, and for the past 43 long nights, my daughter has died in her sleep. She wakes up screaming, soaked in sweat every single time. Same dream, the smell of gas, the crunch of metal, the fire crawling up her legs, the seatbelt jammed across her lap like a noose. Her voice hoarse from yelling, but somehow in the dream, she never dies until the very end, until she feels her skin melt. That's how she describes it, like wax over a candle. Her name is Katie. She's 14 years old, just started high school. This was supposed to be the season of new notebooks and awkward dances and math teachers that smell like chalk dust. Instead, she's unraveling one night at a time, and I'm watching it happen like someone trapped behind glass. I've begged my husband to take it seriously, told him what I've seen, Katie jolting up at exactly 1:13 a.m., clawing at her throat, eyes wild like she's still trapped in the burning car. But he's too busy, too buried in meetings and paperwork, always hunched over his desk to see what's happening under his own roof. She's being dramatic, he told me last week. Not even looking up. You're feeding into it. She needs discipline, not dream journals. Dream journals? Yeah. If he saw the one I found under her mattress, he wouldn't say that. There was sketch after sketch of the same scene. Headlights cutting through fog, a flickering gas station sign that says Martell Avenue, her arms reaching toward a door that won't open. Some of the pages were torn in half, others soaked through with tears. Or worse, one page was smeared with what looked like ash. I tried to throw the drawings away, but that night Katie screamed louder than ever, said she saw me burning in the front seat beside her, said the door was locked and she couldn't save me, said my eyes were already gone. I started sleeping on the floor beside her bed after that. Call it superstition, call it maternal instinct, I don't care. I can't let her face this alone. Not when I feel something's off in the house. Lights flickering for no reason, the air feels heavy near the windows, and sometimes, only sometimes, I swear I can smell gas drifting in from the hallway. I called my sister Nora 2 nights ago. She's the only one who's ever believed me when I say something feels wrong. You remember when Mom was dying? I told her. How I had that dream the night before, the one where everything caught fire? I remember, Nora said. And then the oxygen line ruptured the next day. I hesitated. You think Katie could have gotten it too? You always had the knowing, Leah, she said. But if it's in her dreams now, you don't ignore that. You just don't. Nora came over that night just to sit with me. We didn't talk much, just waited, and when 1:13 a.m. hit, Katie began to thrash under the covers, whispering something we couldn't understand. She's stuck, Nora whispered. Whatever this is, it's pulling her under. I nodded. I don't know how to stop it. My husband still thinks we're imagining it, calls Nora a bad influence, says I need to get some air. He didn't see what I saw this morning. The seatbelt in the passenger side of the car, my side, was jammed, cracked and melted like it had been through a fire. The back seat was warm to the touch, even though the car had not moved in days. I took the keys and walked 3 blocks to the storm drain near the bus stop and threw them in without a word. But when I got home, those keys were hanging on the hook by the back door. Tonight, Katie's already asleep, and I'm sitting in the dark watching the bedside clock, the green digits glowing steadily. 1:10, 1:11, 1:12, and then just before 1:13, she murmured something, eyes closed, sweat dripping from her head. "Mom, you're driving this time." That's when I started to smell the gas.
Subject, Man of the Marsh. User, Xtrixteen. Posted, May 14th, 1997.
You won't find Blackwood on a map. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's just been through a lot of name changes over the years. Blame a century's worth of corrupt mayors with big ideas about what a legacy means. Every time one of our fearless leaders has a heart attack or boating accident, their position taken over by an eldest son or close friend who the previous mayor's wife eagerly marries, the town takes on the name of our new potentate. Word is that the current man in charge has been sleeping in the guest house, so I expect the name might be yet different by the time you read this. Should you find yourself in the Sunshine State near Lake Okeechobee and want to pay us a visit, just ask around and someone will know Blackwood. Every town has an urban legend of its own, the hook-handed killer who stalks teenagers at Makeout Point, or the evil road rats driving rural highways with their headlights off, waiting for unassuming motorists to run off the road. None of those stories are real, nor are the phantom hitchhikers, razor blades, and Halloween candy, or children with black eyes who knock on your door late at night, waiting to be invited inside. These things are all folklore's warning, a way to use scary stories to give warnings about the world that people might otherwise ignore if presented with information directly. For most of my life, I assumed Blackwood's Man of the Marsh was the same. A cautionary tale meant to keep kids out of tall grass full of ticks and water moccasins. I was wrong. It all started on a humid summer night in 1985. I'd been out late drinking at Ginty's, a tin roof shack surrounded by sawgrass on the outskirts of town. It was the cheapest drink in town, and back then, that's all I cared about. It must have been about 1 a.m. when I finally peeled myself off the bar stool and staggered out the battered wooden door into the sodium-lit glow of Ginty's gravel parking lot. Outside, katydids buzzed in the heavy air, and I could smell the bourbon start to seep out of my pores. I reached into the pocket of my Levi's and jingled the car keys. I was fine, I told myself. Hell, I drive better drunk. The highway next to Ginty's runs through miles and miles of marshland before you see so much as a street lamp. I hadn't been on the road 10 minutes when the booze and the swaying sawgrass in my headlights lulled me to sleep. I didn't feel the car leave the road or even the impact when I crashed through the sawgrass into the marsh. What finally woke me up was a big knuckle rapping on the driver's side window. I snapped awake, sitting upright from where I'd slumped over the steering wheel. A flashlight shined in at me, blinding me, and I held up a hand to shield my eyes. "Hey buddy, you okay?" The voice was male and sounded local. With that flashlight, it had to be a cop. Drunk as I was, I knew that was going to be trouble. "I'm okay, officer, thank you. I just, fell asleep on my way home. Long day at work, you know?" There was a laugh. "Work, huh? That your story? Buddy, you're lucky I'm not a cop. Come on, let's get you out of there." The flashlight beam fell away and my door opened. The man who stood there was tall, so much so he had to stoop halfway down just so he could come face to face with me. He was broad-faced, his skin rough, his eyes wide and deep-set. He looked like some kind of storybook giant, the kind we don't much grow anymore down here in the Glades. He reached one tree-trunk-thick arm into the car to unbuckle my seatbelt, then hauled me out like I was light as a feather. You could tell he was being as gentle as he could, but that grip was iron hard, and even drunk as I was, I didn't doubt that he could have crushed the life out of me without raising his blood pressure. Outside the car, I stepped into marsh water 6 inches deep, soaking my boots, and looked around. All I could see was sawgrass on all sides, hemming us in. Where the hell is the road? My new friend laughed again, then jerked his thumb behind him. "Back that a ways. You come a long ways, friend. You're lucky you found me. The only other thing here for miles are snakes and gators. Can you walk?" I nodded. "Come on then, I'll lead you out." "But what about my car?" Another laugh. "Friend, you don't got a car no more. Call it marsh tax. Now, stay close, yeah? Most things here aren't as good-natured as I am." With that, the man began pushing through the sedge. I stumbled at first, my feet sucking into the muck below, but then pulled free and kept pace behind him. The tiny, sharp teeth of the grass tore at my clothes and exposed skin. 1 or 2 cuts from sawgrass isn't so bad, but you're not meant to walk through fields of the stuff. The sweat on my skin was soon joined by a warmer, thicker sensation. Tiny rivulets of blood. I wiped my face, salt stinging in the new wounds. "Jesus, this hurts, man. I'm bleeding back here." This time, there was no laughter before he spoke. "Call that the swamp tax, too. It's not much further." Sure enough, there was a halo of sodium light in the distance. The booze was starting to wear off, and I felt more and more like a horse's ass. I sure managed to cover a lot of ground with my eyes closed. It wasn't a great joke, but I'd hoped for at least a pity chuckle. No such luck. A moment later, my guide spoke again. "The marsh did most of the work, fella. You just made the choice to let it." I didn't know what that meant, so I tried another tack to break the ice. "I didn't catch your name. Mine's Randy." Nothing. The sodium glow was closer now, and I could see the outline of a tin shack. It was Ginty's. We pushed on, the sedge making more of its petty tears. I must have had hundreds of scratches on me by that point, and my clothes were going to have to be trashed too. All in all, I thought, this had been a real expensive night of drinking. The katydids were still buzzing when we got to the gravel lot of Ginty's. The neon open sign was still lit in the window, and inside I could see Eldon, the bartender, pouring someone a shot. On my final step out of the marsh, my foot came loose from its shoe, and I felt the sharp stones poking into the bottom of my wet socks. I sighed. "Marsh tax," I said, almost under my breath. It had been so long since my companion had spoken, his sudden laugh made me jump. "See? You get the idea." I chuckled a little too. "Hey, brother, thank you for getting me out of there. How the hell did you even find me?" He smiled and nodded. "I know the marsh." We stood there for a moment, and since I didn't know what to say, I turned toward Ginty's and asked if I could buy him a drink as a thank you. I heard him laugh again, the water splashing around his ankles. "No, that's all right. Maybe you should take it easy too, huh? This place doesn't give second chances." That last word, chances, was slurred slightly. I turned back toward him and couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. His jaw was open and drifting downward, growing impossibly large. Its color was changing too, from flesh tones to bands of black and yellow. With a splash, the jaw detached entirely from the man's face and splashed into the water where it wriggled away into the dark. I stepped back, the gravel crunching underfoot. The remainder of the man's head began to undulate, losing cohesion and collapsing in on itself, scales coiling around each other. One after the other, thick water moccasins dropped away into the murk where we'd just been walking. His shirt bulged and contracted, and he raised an arm, wiggling his thick fingers as if waving goodbye. The figure then collapsed entirely into the marsh, water rippling as what looked like dozens of the snakes escaped into the tall grass. I didn't even realize I was screaming until Eldon shook my shoulder.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.